Hi, John with Citizen Survival Plan here today. Today, I want to talk about why you need a 9mm carbine, or known as an AR-9. I always wanted a AR style rifle that shot a kind of a less powerful gun with like less percussion going on for home defense. And I kind of had looked at the 1022 and the kind of the Archangel stocks and stuff you could put on those. You could attach a light and stuff. But I kind of always came to the conclusion that the 22 long rifle really didn't have a role in home defense or any kind of patrol rifle or any kind of situation where you would be defending yourself with the rifle. So I kind of came to the conclusion that a 9mm rifle would be perfect. I always kind of looked at the 9mm, especially like in a rifle, kind of as like just a big 22, you know? It's shooting about the same speed as a 22, you know, 1200, 1300 feet per second, maybe somewhere around there. And it's just shooting a bigger bullet. So it kind of fits it perfect. And we're not getting so much percussion. And the rounds are cheaper to practice with. So it kind of fits a lot of fun things if you want to get into just a good rifle that you could use to defend your home and practice with. So I kind of want to go over the pros and cons of a rifle like this. I know some people call it's not a rifle. It is a 9mm rifle in my opinion. It's a rifle, it's got a long barrel, and it just shoots 9mm. So for all intents and purposes, I'm just going to say it's a 9mm rifle. So let's start with the pros on a 9mm rifle and what you could use it for. The first thing that I really like about it is the recoil is a little less than a 223. 223 doesn't have much anyways, but you even go down a little bit more when you use a 9mm. If someone's right up on you and you have a 9mm rifle, because we're kind of talking about this in a home defense sort of situation, if you throw a 33 round Glock mag into this, I mean, you can empty that mag in seconds, especially with someone coming right up on you or multiple people coming right up on you. Another thing that I like about it as a training tool is there's less percussion coming off of this, and this helps in two ways. So when you're training new shooters or you've brought your wife to the range or whatnot, as soon as you hand somebody one of these 9mm rifles, you notice that they instantly get more comfortable with it because there's not so much blast coming off of the rifle. It just eases people when they first start shooting and they're not used to it. Like when I shoot a 223, it doesn't really bother me, but when I first started it, I'm sure it did. And anyone who's new, I just noticed that really gets people sometimes. So that's a big one. Also, when you're defending yourself in your house or in a building or close to walls and stuff, the percussion of a 223 inside your house, and I know this is kind of a debatable topic, but personally, I don't want that. I would like a lower pressure round going off. We have children and kids in our house and stuff. So, you know, if you were to do that, you could, I think you could damage people's ears for good. That's just my opinion. I'm going to stick to it. Yeah, even for you, if you are shooting and you set off this gun in a hallway or something, a 5.56 223 is it's like a flashbang going off. You can get disoriented by it. It's not really likely to happen with a 9mm. You're going to be a lot more in your element, in your zone when you're defending your house, when you don't have that much percussion going off. It's cheaper to shoot. 9mm is just cheaper than 223. That's an easy one, and the recoil is similar. So it's really nice to train like that, and we can burn through a little bit more ammo. We can shoot more. It is a similar feel to an actual AR-15. All of the trigger and the mag release and the safety selector and everything is in the same spot on the AR-9. The only thing that's a little different is just when you grip the mag, it's a smaller mag you're putting into the gun. But not a big deal. It's a great training tool for you to go to the range with for sure. It's only for the ones that share magazines. I want a PCC that shares Glock magazines. That way you can share the magazines with your handguns. That's a bigger magazine. You could stick it in the handgun though. And the regular 17 rounders, they go in there, they're just not as long. This is a big one for us preppers. We want stuff that lasts a long time. this rifle will basically never really wear out. I would have to shoot it a lot. Probably, I don't even know if I even have enough money to actually wear that gun out. 9mm doesn't create the heat and like the power of a 223. So you are just using low pressure ammunition. That barrel will last forever. Even if you wore it out, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. You just put another one. They're like $110 for a barrel. If you ever watched Iraq veteran 888 try and melt down a 9mm PCC, it's a video that's out there. You could look it up. He actually just gave up. He was using it full auto, and he just couldn't kill it. The 9mm round just doesn't generate that much heat and pressure to kill a rifle like 223 does. It is a simple design. There's no gas tube or gas block on it. It's just blowback, so it's nice and simple. Shooting steel at close range. This is really why I like this. I used to go to the range all the time. I always wanted to practice shooting targets up close, engaging things up close, and see how fast or slow I could actually shoot. And if you're shooting steel and you want feedback while you're training, you can't shoot steel with a 223 rifle at, even 30 or 25 yards, or even 10. We've shot that at 10 yards at steel. And it's just really cool to be able to either shoot steel far away or just shoot it right up on you. I don't have to worry about the spalling or frag, whatever, coming off the targets, or bullet fragmentation coming back at you, because the 223 is just so much more powerful than the 9mm. It shares a lot of the same parts with your AR-15s that you have. So it shares, these are just a couple of examples, I'm sure there's more, but it shares the charging handle, the rails, the grips, the stocks, the buffer tube, the trigger assembly, the takedown pins, and the firing pin are all the same within these two rifle systems, your AR or your AR-9. All right, let's get into the cons on a PCC or 9mm rifle, as I call them. Biggest thing is just it's less powerful. I don't have as much power. The capacity is about the same. I've seen people say that the ammo is heavier on 9mm. I'll put it up on the screen. I weighed both of them. They're really the same. I guess what people are trying to say is you get a lot more power for the same weight with 223. 9mm is the same weight and you get less power. But they're really the same. It's such a small number that they're not different. They're not really any different. The useful range on a 9mm, in my opinion, the absolute maximum useful range would be about 150. I would say more like 125, but 150 would be like really pushing it out there. You wouldn't really want to go very far shooting a target that far. Your AR-15 is probably going to be good, but maximum range 3 to 350. I've heard people say 4. When I shoot, I pretty much start coming off target about 350. 300, 350 is where I start getting a little, off. This is one that I've run into. The parts on your 9mm bolt carrier group are typically not replaceable. I'm sure there's one company out there that does, but I don't think Aero or anyone actually gives replacement parts for these. So you can't rebuild the bolt carrier group like you can on an AR-15. So that's a con. I got to buy a whole new one. This is an extra one, and they're not too expensive. I think this was about 115 bucks from Midway. This is their house brand. It works good. So one note when you're like rebuilding it, but you don't have to worry about the gas block or anything. It's just that. So this gun is gassy. It's a blowback operation. So a con on it is you get a lot of gas out. Whenever you fire the gun, you'll see, all the smoke and gas kind of come out the side, and it can come out the back and in your face a little bit. To mitigate this, I use the Aero Precision charging handle, the Aero Breach. It really mitigates a lot of the gas coming out of the rear where the charging handle goes in and getting you. You can also mitigate this if you want to do a side charging 9mm without the back where the charging handle goes in. That's another option. but in my opinion, you're losing your compatibility with your other parts with the charging handle. I like to keep everything as close to the same as possible. Okay, this one is about building AR9s. So this isn't store-bought ones, but this is if you're building one. I've seen a lot of people say that they can never get an AR9 to run correctly. I've seen a lot of this on the internet with people trying to build them and they never function right, and they're using super heavy buffers and then super lights, and then they're strengthening up the buffer spring, and they're trying all kinds of stuff. I just want to share how I got mine to work, and mine is stone cold reliable. It is just as reliable as any of my AR-15s. I would trust it to go off just like any of my ARs. So I had called New Frontier Armory, because that's what the lower is on this. And when I got home with the lower, I start weighing the internal parts. I weighed the buffer in there, and it was a 3-ounce buffer. And everyone on the line is all like, you need a 5 or 5-ounce or even heavier buffer to make them work. So I called New Frontier Armory, and they were super helpful, actually. A lot of gun companies won't answer the phone or talk to you to leave messages, and they'll never call you back. So kudos to New Frontier Armory. Not affiliated with them at all. I just want to share that they were super cool. They actually talked to me about how this worked. So there, and I'm going to roll a picture of it, they put a spacer in the back of the buffer spring and in the buffer tube. I'll put a picture up. So it limits how far it can come back and forward. And when I called them, I was like, why don't you have a 5.5-ounce buffer in this? This is a PCC. And they explained to me the bolt carrier groups are heavier, and aided with that spacer, it will work just fine. I'll put the weight of this up too, because these are heavier than your standard too. I'll put a standard and I'll put that one up, and what's the weight on both of them. But it runs fine. I use just a typical carbine spring and a 3-ounce buffer in the regular mil-spec buffer tube. It runs perfectly fine. I don't feel where it's like really knocking or hitting hard in there, where it's like getting like limited out, like hitting the back of the buffer tube or anything. It feels fine in my opinion. Everyone has theirs. I don't see anything wrong with it. I don't feel anything wrong with it. And it cycles, so that's the most important thing. Last thing on the cons of a 9mm PCC. A lot of people say that they are heavier than your 223, and I will agree they're a little heavier, just because of what we just talked about. You got to run heavier bolt carrier groups and whatnot, and the bullet diameter is bigger, so you kind of have to have like a little bit thicker of a barrel. But I use Midway rails. That is the Midway regular weight rail. So if you wanted to make it a little bit lighter, you could just kind of lighten your rail up. This is the V2. I could save a few ounces. That one weighs 7.13 ounces, so 7.1 ounces. That's with the optic on and no mag in it, and no flashlight, because the flashlight's on there. So just with that optic on, it is 7 pounds, 1 ounces. I could probably get it just under 7 pounds if I were to swap this lightweight rail on. I don't really care that much. Just a note. So you can have a 6-pound PCC if you build it yourself. A lot of companies like Springfield Armory and stuff, their PCCs look real heavy. So just a note. This was a fun one for me. I love AR9s, and I just think they're great. Nice long-lasting training tool that you don't have to worry about beating up on and running a ton. Great for training. Great for training people that aren't really that familiar with rifles, and just an overall fun experience to shoot. This is John with Citizen Survival Plan. Have fun shooting.